I'm Ellie Harper, 34, a marketing manager at a bustling firm in downtown Chicago. My life on paper looks solid: a corner office, a cozy apartment in Logan Square, and a reputation for getting things done. But beneath the surface, there's a knot of memories that's taken years to untangle. I grew up in Lake Forest, a leafy suburb where wealth was as common as the manicured lawns. But my family's story was anything but picturesque. My parents, Robert and Diane Harper, built Harper's Organic Markets, a chain of grocery stores that turned their knack for spotting trends into a $12 million empire. To the outside world, we were the perfect American family: two daughters, a sprawling house, and all the trappings of success. But inside, it was a different story. Growing up, I was the responsible one, the older sister who studied hard, kept my room tidy, and followed every rule my parents set. They'd sit me down, their faces serious, and lecture me about planning for the future, saving every penny, and making them proud. I soaked it up, eager for their approval, but it always felt like I was chasing something just out of reach. Then there was my sister, Chloe, 7 years younger and the golden child in every sense. With mom's emerald eyes, dad's easy charm, and a smile that could light up a room, Chloe was the daughter everyone noticed. She was the one relatives fawned over at holiday dinners, the one neighbors whispered about as the pretty one. I'd watch her twirl through our living room, her laughter pulling everyone in, while I faded into the background, my plain features and quiet demeanor no match for her glow. It wasn't just her looks. Chloe had a way of bending the world to her will. When she was 10, she landed a modeling gig for a local boutique without even trying. Some scout saw her at a school play and was smitten. By high school, she was an Instagram influencer, racking up thousands of followers with effortless selfies. Our parents, who'd built their business on discipline, somehow melted around her. They'd slip her cash for weekend trips or new clothes, no questions asked, while I was grilled about every dollar I spent. "Ellie, you're the sensible one," Mom would say, her tone half proud, half expecting. "Chloe's just Chloe." That phrase stung more than I could admit, a reminder that I was the shadow to her light. I loved Chloe, though, at least at first. As a kid, she'd trail after me, her tiny hand in mine, calling my name like it was her favorite word. I'd braid her hair, help with her homework, and cheer at her dance recitals. But as we got older, her adoration turned sharp. By middle school, she'd tease me about my flat nose or my boring clothes, her giggles cutting deeper each time. Once, at a family barbecue, she pointed at me and told her cousin, "Ellie's the brainy one," but I got the looks. Everyone laughed, and I forced a smile, my cheeks burning. Mom and Dad didn't correct her, they just changed the subject. That was when I started to feel it, the slow, aching realization that I'd never measure up, not in their eyes or anyone else's. Now, standing in my apartment, staring at the Chicago skyline, I can still feel that old ache, but it's quieter now, like a bruise that's finally fading. Back then, I didn't know how to escape the weight of being Chloe's sister. All I knew was that I had to keep going, keep proving myself, even if no one was watching. By the time I hit high school, Chloe's light had all but eclipsed me. At 16, I was buried in AP classes and SAT prep, trying to carve out a future that would make Mom and Dad proud. Meanwhile, Chloe, barely 10, was already a local celebrity. Her Instagram posts, sunlit selfies by Lake Michigan or goofy videos from our backyard, racked up thousands of likes. Brands sent her free clothes, and she'd prance around in them, her confidence magnetic. I'd watch her, a mix of awe and envy twisting in my chest, wondering how someone so young could command so much attention without even trying. It wasn't just the world outside our home. Inside, Chloe's charm was a gravitational force. At dinner, she'd regale Mom and Dad with stories of her day, her laughter filling the room, while I picked at my food, my own stories feeling too small to share. If I mentioned a good grade, Mom would nod absently, but when Chloe talked about a modeling shoot or a new follower milestone, their eyes lit up. "That's our star," Dad would say, ruffling her hair. I'd force a smile, my heart sinking, knowing I'd never be their star. As Chloe hit her teens, her teasing turned cruel. She'd rifle through my closet, borrowing my favorite sweater or the earrings I'd saved up for, only to claim they looked better on her. Once, I found her in my room, holding up a dress I'd bought for a school dance. "Ellie, this is cute, but it's not you," she said, smirking. Before I could stop her, she wore it to a party, and when it came back stained, she shrugged. "Oops, my bad." I complained to Mom, but she just sighed. "Ellie, don't be so hard on Chloe. She looks up to you." Looks up to me? It felt more like she was stomping me down. The worst came in my senior year. I'd spent weeks saving for a leather jacket, a rare splurge to feel a little less invisible. Chloe, then 14, took it from my closet and wore it to school. When I confronted her, she rolled her eyes and said, "Chill, Ellie, it's not like you're pulling it off." That night, she staged a meltdown, tears streaming, claiming I'd yelled at her for no reason. Dad pulled me aside, his voice stern. "You're the older sister, Ellie. Act like it." I stood there, my throat tight, realizing no one would ever take my side. That was when I started planning my escape. I threw myself into college applications, aiming for Northwestern to stay close, but far enough to breathe. When I moved out at 18, my tiny studio apartment felt like a sanctuary. I avoided family holidays, picking up extra shifts at a campus coffee shop to stay away from Lake Forest. Each time Mom called, asking me to come home, I'd make excuses, the thought of Chloe's smug grin keeping me rooted in Chicago. I was done being her shadow. But the scars of those years lingered, a quiet ache that followed me into every mirror, every moment of doubt. I wanted to believe I was enough, but back then I wasn't so sure. The call came on a rainy April morning, the kind of day that already feels heavy. I was at my desk, tweaking a marketing pitch, when my phone buzzed with an unknown number. It was the police. Mom and Dad's private plane had crashed during a business trip to Denver. No survivors. The words hit like a punch, leaving me numb, my hands shaking as I hung up. At 34, I thought I'd have years left with them, time to mend the distance I'd put between us. But life doesn't wait for reconciliation. The funeral was a blur of black dresses and condolences in our Lake Forest church. I organized everything, the service, the catering, the guest list, while grief sat like a stone in my chest. Chloe, now 27, floated through the crowd, her eyes red but her presence magnetic. Mourners flocked to her, offering hugs and whispered sympathies, while I stood by the casket, arranging flowers and greeting relatives who barely noticed me. "You're so strong, Ellie," an aunt said, but it didn't feel like strength. It felt like necessity, like I was the only one holding it together. Chloe's tears were real, I'll give her that, but they also felt like a performance. She'd sob loudly during the eulogy, drawing every eye, then slip into a quiet corner to check her phone. I wanted to scream at her to help, to do something, but I bit my tongue, the weight of being the responsible one pressed harder than ever. Relatives didn't help. "You two are so different," a cousin remarked, eyeing Chloe's sleek black dress and my plain one. "She's got Diane's looks, doesn't she?" I nodded, my jaw tight, the old sting of comparison cutting deep. At night, alone in my hotel room, I cried for Mom and Dad, for the love I'd craved, but never quite felt. I thought of their pride in Chloe, their endless excuses for her, and the lectures they'd saved for me. I loved them, but I was angry too, angry that they'd left us with a legacy of favoritism, a $12 million estate that I knew would tear Chloe and me apart. As I packed my bags for the inheritance meeting, I felt a flicker of dread. Chloe had always taken what she wanted. I braced myself for what was coming, my heart heavy with grief and the ghosts of our past. A week after the funeral, I drove to our family home in Lake Forest for the inheritance meeting. The house, with its ivy-covered walls and wide windows, felt like a museum of my childhood, full of memories I'd rather forget. Chloe was already there, lounging on the leather sofa, her phone in hand. At 27, she looked every bit the influencer, her makeup flawless even in grief. I sat across from her, my laptop open with estate documents, my stomach churning. I knew what was coming. The $12 million is mine, Chloe said, not even looking up from her screen. Mom and Dad always loved me more, you know that, Ellie. I mean, look at you. Her words sliced through me, sharp and familiar, echoing every taunt from our teenage years. I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms. Part of me wanted to fight, to scream that I'd earned a share through years of being the sensible one, but another part, a louder part, was just tired. Tired of competing, tired of being less than, tired of a family that never saw me. I took a deep breath, steadying my voice. You can have it, Chloe. All of it. But there's a condition. Her eyes flicked up, wary. We're done. No calls, no texts, no contact ever. For a moment, she looked stunned, like she hadn't expected me to let go so easily. Then a smirk spread across her face. Fine by me. Why would I need you dragging me down? Her laugh was sharp, but I felt something shift inside me, relief, like a weight lifting. I stood, gathering my things, the room feeling smaller than ever. You'll need to handle the estate yourself, I said. I'm out. I walked out the door, her laughter trailing behind me, but for the first time, it didn't sting. Driving back to Chicago, I felt a strange lightness. I'd given up $12 million, but I'd also given up the fight to be seen. For years, I'd measured my worth against Chloe's, against my parents' approval. Now, I was choosing myself. The road ahead felt uncertain, but it was mine. As the city skyline came into view, I let myself believe I could finally be free. 3 months after I walked away, my phone started buzzing with Chloe's name. I'd been savoring the quiet days filled with work, yoga classes, and dinners with friends who didn't know my sister's shadow. Each call felt like a violation, a crack in the peace I'd fought for. I ignored her at first, letting the calls go to voicemail, but Chloe was relentless. My job required me to keep my phone on, so one evening, I picked up, my voice cold. Chloe, we had a deal. No contact. Ellie, I need your help, she blurted, her tone frantic, no trace of the smugness from before. I tried to access Mom and Dad's money, but some guy at the bank said I owe taxes or something. You're good at this stuff. Fix it. I pinched the bridge of my nose, frustration bubbling. She hadn't even apologized for breaking our agreement. I wanted to hang up, but part of me, the part that still remembered braiding her hair as a kid, felt a flicker of obligation. I kept it brief. There's no inheritance tax if the estate's under $13.6 million, which it is. But I renounced my claim, Chloe. I told the lawyer I'm out, so I can't touch it. The estate's mostly business assets, not cash, and you're listed as a cosigner on some of Dad's loans. You need a lawyer to sort it out. Silence stretched on her end, then a huff. So what, I just call someone? You're useless. She hung up, and I stared at my phone, anger mixing with relief. She hadn't changed, still expecting me to clean up her messes. Over the next week, her calls kept coming, each voicemail more desperate. Ellie, I don't know what to do. The lawyer's confusing me. I deleted them, my resolve hardening. I'd spent years being her fallback, her punching bag. Not anymore. At night, I'd lie awake, picturing her in that big house, alone with her expectations. I felt a pang of guilt, but it was drowned out by something stronger, pride. I was building a life without her, one where I didn't have to prove my worth. The phone kept buzzing, but I was learning to let it ring. Chloe's voicemails grew more frantic as weeks passed. I'd listen just long enough to catch the gist before deleting them, each one a reminder of why I'd walked away. She'd seen a lawyer, she said, and learned the truth. The $12 million estate wasn't a pile of cash waiting for her. Most of it was tied up in Harper's organic markets, real estate, inventory, contracts. Worse, as a cosigner on Dad's business loans, she was on the hook for debts that slashed her inheritance to about $1.5 million. This is a scam, Ellie, she wailed in one message. I was supposed to get millions. I couldn't help but shake my head. Chloe had always lived in a fantasy where money just appeared, like her Instagram likes. She'd been posting about her new life as an heiress, flaunting designer bags and a rented penthouse in the Loop. Words spread fast. Suddenly, distant cousins and old high school friends were calling her, asking for loans or investments. I heard from a mutual acquaintance that Chloe was throwing parties, playing the role of Chicago's newest socialite. It was classic Chloe, chasing attention, not reality. Her voicemails painted a different picture. "Ellie, people won't leave me alone," she said, her voice cracking. "They think I'm loaded, but I'm not." I felt a twinge of pity, but it faded fast. She'd chosen this, bragging about wealth she didn't have, ignoring the fine print. I'd warned her to get a lawyer, to figure it out, but she'd brushed me off. Now she was drowning in her own hype, and I wasn't diving in to save her. At work, I was thriving, pitching campaigns that got nods from my boss. Colleagues started inviting me to happy hours, noticing a spark I hadn't shown before. "You seem lighter," Ellie once said over beers. I smiled, realizing they were right. Chloe's chaos was hers alone now. I'd spent years feeling less than, but each deleted voicemail felt like a step toward something better. I wasn't her shadow anymore. I was Ellie, and that was enough. One evening, Chloe's voicemail took a darker turn. "Ellie, I met someone," she said, her voice giddy, almost unrecognizable. "Ethan's amazing. He loves me, not the money." I rolled my eyes, deleting it, but the next message, a week later, was a sob. "He's gone, Ellie. He took everything." My stomach twisted, not with surprise, but with a grim kind of clarity. I listened to the whole story unfold across her messages, piecing together her latest disaster. Chloe had met Ethan at a rooftop bar, a charming guy with a quick smile and big promises. He'd swept her off her feet, talking about a future together. When he learned about her $1.5 million inheritance, he suggested she pull it from the bank, too risky, he'd said, and store it in a safe at her penthouse. Against all reason, Chloe listened, converting her money to cash and locking it away. The next morning, the safe was empty and Ethan was gone. "I thought he loved me," she cried in one message. "Why does this keep happening?" I sat on my couch, staring at the phone, a storm of emotions swirling. Part of me ached for her. Losing everything to a con man was brutal. But another part, the one that remembered her smirks and taunts, felt a cold satisfaction. She'd built her life on flash and charm, never questioning who was drawn to it. Ethan was just the latest to exploit her blind spots. I wanted to call her, to say she should have known better, but I stopped myself. Our deal was no contact, and I meant it. Her messages kept coming, each one more desperate. "Ellie, I'm broke. I can't pay rent. Where are you?" I felt a pang of guilt, but it wasn't my job to fix her. I'd spent my life cleaning up her messes, only to be mocked for it. As I deleted another voicemail, I thought about my own life, my promotion at work, the friends I was making, the quiet pride in standing on my own. Chloe's world was crumbling, but mine was finally taking shape. Chloe's voicemails became a daily ritual, like a radio I couldn't turn off. She'd moved back to our family home in Lake Forest after losing her penthouse, unable to keep up with the rent. "Ellie, it's awful," she sobbed in one message. "Cousins keep showing up, saying the house is too big for me. They want money or they want to move in." Her voice cracked, raw with panic. "I need you. Let's live together, please." I listened, my heart pounding, torn between pity and fury. She'd ignored our agreement, acting like her promises meant nothing. I'd given up $12 million to be free of her, and now she wanted to drag me back into her chaos. One night, fed up, I answered her call. "Chloe, stop," I said, my voice steady but sharp. "We had a deal. No contact. You've broken it a dozen times." "I'm sorry, Ellie," she whispered, her voice small. "I can't do this alone. I'm scared. Come get me." For a moment, I saw the little girl who used to follow me around, her eyes wide with trust. But that girl was gone, replaced by someone who'd spent years cutting me down. I took a deep breath. "I'm changing my number, Chloe. This is the last time we're talking. You made your choices. Live with them." Her screams echoed as I hung up, a mix of apologies and pleas. I turned off my phone, my hand shaking, but my mind clear. The next day, I went to the phone store and got a new number. Each step felt like a declaration. I wasn't her savior, her sister, or her shadow anymore. I was Ellie, and I was done. At work, my boss noticed the change. "You're killing it, Ellie," she said after I nailed a client pitch. I smiled, feeling the weight of Chloe's calls lift. I'd spent years letting her define me, but now I was writing my own story. The house in Lake Forest, the money, the pain, it was all behind me. For the first time, I felt like I could breathe. A year after cutting ties with Chloe, my life feels like it's finally mine. At work, I've been promoted to senior marketing manager, leading campaigns that have our clients buzzing. My boss calls me a quiet powerhouse, and for the first time, I believe it. I've started painting again, a hobby I abandoned in high school when Chloe's star outshone mine. My apartment is filled with canvases, bold colors, messy strokes, all mine. Each one feels like a piece of me I'm reclaiming. Friends have noticed the change too. Over brunch, my colleague Sarah said, "You're different, Ellie. You used to hold back, like you were apologizing for existing. Now you're here." I laughed, but her words hit me hard. I used to shrink myself, always comparing, always falling short. Chloe's beauty, her charm, her place in our parents' hearts, it was a yardstick I could never measure up to. But now I don't need to. I'm enough. I still think about Chloe sometimes, wondering if she's found her footing. I heard through a cousin that she's still in Lake Forest, struggling to keep the house while fending off relatives. Part of me hopes she's okay, but I don't check. That door is closed. Losing my family, first mom and dad, then Chloe, hurt, but it also freed me. I've learned to love the quiet moments. A coffee shop book, a run along the lake, a laugh with friends. These are mine, untouched by her shadow. Standing in my apartment, watching the Chicago skyline glow at dusk, I feel a peace I never knew was possible. I'm not the sensible sister or the plain one anymore. I'm Ellie Harper, and I'm building a life that's all my own. Looking back, I see my life as a series of shadows, Chloe's, my parents', my own doubts. I spent years chasing their approval, measuring myself against a sister who seemed to have it all. Walking away from that $12 million was the hardest thing I've ever done, but it was also the best. It wasn't about the money. It was about choosing myself, about refusing to be defined by someone else's light. Chloe's choices, her scams, her pleas, they were her story, not mine. She built a life on flash and fell when it crumbled. I built mine on quiet strength, and I'm still standing. I don't hate Chloe. I feel for her in a distant way, like you might for a stranger in a news story. But I can't carry her weight anymore. I found my own, a career I love, friends who see me, a life that feels like home. The pain of losing my family will always linger, but it's taught me something vital. My worth isn't tied to their love or her beauty. It's in me and the woman I've become. To everyone who's followed this journey, thank you. You've walked with me through grief, betrayal, and the slow climb to self-love. If my story resonates, keep it close. Hit that subscribe button and join me as I keep building, one step at a time. Your own story is waiting. Find it, live it, and never let anyone dim your light. I'll be here, cheering you on.